When you book the Habitat Commons podcast room, you're going to need to know what it's all about. And that's what we're doing here today. It's not a tutorial, but it's kind of a tips and tricks video just to show you how we have it set up. If this all seems a little overwhelming for you, then you're probably going to need a technical producer. But if you're used to filming video podcasts, then this is all going to be pretty familiar. So you saw her putting the curtain on the back wall. You're going to want to do that with the magnetic clip so you have a nice clean shot from that angle. And in terms of lighting in the room, you just want to use the accent lights. The cameras and everything with the video lights are initialized for the room to be lit just with the accent lighting, not with the actual room lights. Turn the TV on and put it into the HDMI input. That way you get the feed coming from the ATEM switcher over in the producer's corner. I think we're going to go to a shot. Yeah, you want to make sure the lights are set to 50%. And with the honeycomb, they're designed to be pointed right at the two talents. The table here is set up for two people. So that'll sort of prevent too much spill from hitting that back wall. Give you a nice look. That said, there is some spill going off at the angle there, so that if you have three people on the podcast, or even four, the other two would sit at the end of the table. It still looks good. If you find the ATEM switcher off, it's because it's unplugged. So as you see, she's going to want to plug that in. If you're familiar with those, you know they don't have an on-off switch. The XLR mics run into this Tascam podcast recorder. I think that's what it's called. You're going to need to bring an SD card. I recommend formatting it, putting it in and formatting it. Other than that, you just want to make sure here she's formatting it. You want to double check to make sure the mics are not muted. If you see the orange light up at the top, it means it's muted. We have 4 XLR mics. You could have up to 4 guests, or you could have 3 guests and a producer, or 2 guests and a producer. Right now, the 4th mic is at the producer station. You can see she moved the control there to 0 dB. For this recorder, 0 dB is where you want it. Some it's -6, some it's -12. Unless someone is really laughing loud, you're going to want to set it at 0. And that's going to sound good when you get into your video recorder. If they yell, if they laugh super loud, it might peak, so you might want to put it a little bit lower. Like I said, make sure the mics are not muted. There's headphones there to monitor it with. So and make sure you hit record and make sure it's actually recording and you see the record time sort of counting off. That way you know you're recording. And make sure you hit stop and take your SD card with you when you finish. She has her laptop sitting there. The laptop would be perfect for sort of showing the talent notes during their podcast, maybe what they want to cover or whatever. That's being fed through the ATEM switcher through the 4th input. I think that's input 1, and she's going to switch to input 4 here. And that way they can see the notes while they're doing the podcast. There's no 3rd chair there at the end of the table in that shot. Some people like to have their producer on the podcast, like Joe Rogan and some others do that occasionally. So you could put the producer cam there. You could run it through the ATEM switcher if you wanted, if you're doing a live podcast, or if you want to record it in HD on the switcher, you can. It's the ATEM Mini Pro ISO. So bring an SD card. I'm sorry, an SSD with an exFAT file system on it will record. The ATEM switcher will record there. Here, she's putting the SD cards in the camera. She's formatting them. And if you rewound a little bit, you would see her unplug the HDMI cable to get the info on the back of the camera. That's maybe the trickiest part of this whole setup. Gerald Undone and many other reviewers have complained for years that when you're exporting info over HDMI through a Sony camera, it takes the info off the back of the camera. I don't know why that is, and it's annoying. So to compose your shots and to format your cards and to check your settings and everything, at least initially, unplug the HDMI cable, get it all set up, then plug the HDMI cable back in. That way your producer who's sitting over at the producer station, or if you don't have a producer and you just want to monitor everything while you're recording, you'll be able to do that, because the output from the cameras with all the info and everything will run through HDMI over to the switcher, and you'll be able to see either one or all the outputs there on the TV, and that will allow you to monitor where your focus is, that you're recording, that you have plenty of record time left, that the battery is topped up and charging. There's USB power supplied to all three of the cameras, so you shouldn't have any issues with power. They should stay topped up, and then you have the internal battery in case something got unplugged, which usually lasts for an hour plus. The last thing to note, perhaps in case they're not initialized when you get in the studio, are the camera settings. You can see them on the screen here, but just to let you know, it's 30 frames per second, the shutter at 180 degrees or 1/60th of a second, the f-stop or the iris at f2.8, and the ISO at 640 with the white balance at 4500. That's for all three cameras. The two side cameras are usually zoomed to around 35 millimeters, and the middle camera is zoomed all the way out, maybe in just a little bit, at around 18 millimeters. This hasn't been a tutorial. This is just to show you the setup, sort of the tips and tricks of how we have the studio set up and how to use it. If this all seems a little overwhelming for you, then consider hiring someone like me. My name is Tony Rican with Rican Studio. I have an office here at Habitat Commons. Or bring your own producer to have everything set up and arranged for you. If you are doing it yourself, you want to make sure to compose your shots, and just one last trick would be to go ahead and plug that HDMI cable back into the camera there, switch it on the switcher to the angle you're dealing with, and then go sit in the chair and look up at the TV and make sure everything looks nice. And if it doesn't, go to the camera and adjust it and go back and check it out, and you'll be able to see the shot, sort of monitor the shot up on the TV there. That's it. Thanks for listening.